Orthographic marks in Spanish.
The tilde.
In Spanish, if a word ends in a vowel, an N or an S, the stress is on the second to last syllable. Like in the words casa, libro, lunes.
If a word ends in any other consonant that is not an N or an S, the stress is on the last syllable, like in the words comer, doctor, feliz. If a word breaks the natural stress rules, you must add a tilde. The tilde is an accent mark that goes on top of a vowel. It lets us know that we must raise our voice slightly when we get to that syllable. The word panal has the stress on the last syllable, panal. This follows the natural stress rules in Spanish, which say that if a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, the stress naturally falls on the last syllable, so no tilde is needed. The word mama, however, also has stress on the last syllable, ma, but it ends in a vowel. According to the Spanish stress rules, if a word ends in a vowel, N or S, the stress should fall on the second to last syllable. Since mama breaks that rule by stressing the last syllable instead, a tilde is added on the last A to show this irregular stress. When reading Spanish words, the key takeaway is this. Every time you see a tilde, that is where the stress falls, which means you must raise your voice at that point. For the word mama, the tilde is on the last A. So that means you must raise your voice on the last syllable, like this, ma. When writing Spanish, you must know when to use a tilde. That is, when the word doesn't follow the natural stress rules. The dieresis. The dieresis is two dots on top of the letter U. It is exclusively used on the letter U and only in two situations. When you have a GUE or a GUI and you want the U to be pronounced. Why do we need the dieresis? Normally in Spanish, when you have a GUE or a GUI, the U is always silent. But there are a few words which break this rule. In these words, we want to pronounce the U, so we mark the U with the dieresis to let the reader know this U must be pronounced. For example, in the word guerra and guineo, the U is silent. But in the word vergüenza and in the word pingüino, the U is pronounced. When reading Spanish words, the key takeaway is this. Every time you see a U with a dieresis, you must pronounce that U. Since the U is always silent in GUE and GUI, we must mark the U to let the reader know that in this word we want the U to be pronounced. When writing the dieresis, the key rule is this, and only in words that have the GUE or the GUI. If the U is silent, we don't use a dieresis. But if the U needs to be pronounced, we must mark the U with a dieresis. Well done! You've completed the lesson on orthographic marks. Feel free to listen to the lesson and do the exercises as many times as you need until you feel comfortable with the material. Remember to be consistent and practice as often as you can. I'll see you in the next lesson.